Hello everybody, hope you're having a wonderful day today, and welcome to the part 2 of my final hope breakdown, where we're going to be talking about the instrumentation, production, and the arrangement behind the piece. And so, if you haven't watched the first part yet, where we talk about the theory behind it, please watch that first. I'll leave a link in the description box below, and go ahead and watch that, and then come back to actually talk about, the parts that this was comprised of. So, let's get right into it. You can see here there's more than 100 tracks, so I'm going to try not to take too long and see if we can get through everything here. So just expand this a little bit. And as you can see, I'm not going to open the contact instances just because that will take too long, but I'm going to tell you each of the libraries I used. So a lot of this is out of the box actually, so you don't have to tweak too much with the settings you're given. The libraries I purchased, I chose because I like the sound out of the box. I'm not a tweaker by nature. I'm not a very technical person when it comes to this kind of stuff. I just like to sit down and get it out and done. And so these libraries fit my needs very well. So I wanted to use the Cinematic Studio Strings and Berlin Strings layered together, as well as Cine Strings from Cinesamples, just to give it that really cutting sound a little bit. So if I here play them all together. So the tone of CSS is warm and lush, BS is kind of in the middle, and Cine Strings is more harsh and cutting. So that's how I kind of got the strings to cut through the mix, and I was able to, bring it to the forefront there. I layered in another instance of Cinematic Studio Strings Violence 2 with the melody for the unison, and then I have the some legato here as the harmony. So here's the melody, right? And then this Violence 2 legato was the harmony. Some low string staccatissimo from Metropolis Arc 3. This really just gives it that biting, cutting bass support. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3. You'll see this characteristic rhythm throughout the piece. A lot of Mario games, they have one characteristic feel per track, so it just made sense to me to keep it all consistent throughout here. It outlines the harmonic support. The violence ostinato is very important because it maintains a sense of movement, especially when you're holding longer notes, and when you have more epic sections like this one, for example. Here I'm kind of doing some scales up and down, This is an inspiration I took from the Fossil Falls track from Super Mario Odyssey. There's constantly stuff going on in the background just to make it not stagnant and to keep it going, keep it flowing. So it's really important that you throw these in now and then, I put these back in the C section, so little descending fours here. Spiccato exposed, I needed just a little bit of more body and bite to the harmonic support. So this is from Berlin Strings. So is this one, the Violin Ostinato, from the Playable Runs patch. Violence 1 Spiccato. There should, to me, there shouldn't feel like it's stopping. There always has to be a sense of motion for this track. So a little bit of spiccato, short notes helps to get that through. So that's from Berlin Strings as well. From here, Metropolis Arc 1 comes in to fill in the high frequencies when I felt that the melody wasn't strong enough. So I needed a little more support in the very top end. Right? There we go. So I put that in, occasionally here on the repeat of the theme as well. Right. Okay, let's keep going. The string ensemble sustains, I needed it, especially because you know, the mid-range wasn't filling in as much as I wanted to, so I kind of put this in to fill everything out. Let's go here. Right, so you can hear it kind of fills in the bottom there. The Cinematic Studio Strings Cello Legato kind of used as a counterpoint line. You know, I kind of threw it in there just to add some additional color. Like kind of like counter melodies, you know, stuff like that in the C section there. Violin repetitions, let's see. Kind of how the spiccato patch did their kind of thing. This is very similar. It's all about the small details, you know. The more intricate kind of detail you put into your tracks, the more they'll come to life. It's always a balancing act, like between doing too little and too much, so just be careful. Here's some bass pizzicatos, gives it a light and fun feeling. So. You can't really, like, I mean, you can hear it. It kind of fills in the stereo space in that way. It's not really something to be heard on its own. It works best in context of other things there. The bass legato, obviously, it just outlines the bass, the harmony, when you just need that low end. The measure tremolos I love. I think everyone knows that now. It just makes you feel like, you know, you're heading towards somewhere. There's a destination. It keeps things moving, which I really, really like. And it's easy. It's easy to program. All you need to do is you play one note and it doubles it. So it's like just does it for you. The scale runs are from Cinestrings runs. So especially when you lead into climaxes, that's when the runs are especially effective. Like pre-programmed ones like this especially. The string tremolos I used as a building up tool, so right. The library is especially effective when you use the mod wheels, so the more you write it up, the more intense and the louder it gets. So using these string tremolos from the Cineorg library, it's the Vivaldi tremolos. It sounds really, really cool. All right, so here I layered in the flute. I mean, I love the woodwind section, so I try to use it whenever possible. But you can see here I use flute 1 and flute 2, and then I also layered in an oboe for additional color, so it sounds kind of like this. Flute 2 is actually quite quiet, because I just wanted to support the first flute, right? And the oboe is actually from the Berlin Woodwinds Expansion B, and it sounds like this. I just love the color. A little bit of reverb from the Teldec IR. Right, and then I basically have the flute and stuff in when it's lighter in nature. So in the B section, same thing. And the piccolo I like to use when I'm missing a, oh, hang on. Trigger this key switch, man. There we go. I like to use this, especially when I need a bit of extra high end. A little more breathiness. All right, let's keep going. Holly Woodwinds major scales, classic. The best thing is that out of the box, they sound amazing. Right, so it just gives you that Hollywood flavor. I've talked about it before, but when you're placing your runs, you want to place them strategically. Don't just put them all over the place. They have to be, you know, appropriately done. So, you know, you can run into a loud climax. It can happen during a longer held note in the melody. You know, you can figure that out. Like whatever sounds good is good. If it sounds too busy, then it's probably not correct. So, for the Hollywood Woodwind staccato, it's great because this patch, it's a 2D staccato, and then you just map it out across the keyboard, it's done for you. Then you can just play whatever you want. So bassoons are near the bottom, clarinets and stuff are in the middle, then near the top are the flutes and the piccolo. So, you know, sounds kind of like that. And then layered with the oompa pattern, sounds like this. Where is it? Here. So the oompa pattern itself. The texture from Hollywood Winds. Cinesamples make some awesome stuff. Some flute trills. I just like throwing these in here. A little, you know, flutteriness, right? That's what I consider ear candy, you know. Orchestrationally, you want to throw in some stuff just to let the ear enjoy. And then the flute piccolo combo is from Metropolis Arc 4, and this is kind of the first thing I've ever used from Metropolis Arc 4. So it sounds great out of the box. That's it. Used it to layer some of the quieter stuff in the B section. Right, so that's how that sounds. Now the meat and potatoes and the punch mainly come from the brass, right? So in this case, I layered in the Cinebrass trumpets with the 90s retro trumpets, both from Cinesamples again. So the 90s retro trumpets takes over most of the melody here. I was kind of trying to push this library to see how far it could go, and in terms of the shorts and punchiness, it actually did pretty well. So, Cinebrass, classic Williams sound, I love it. So it has the harmony in there as well. I love the 6 horns, so such a full epic sound. I love it. It's so clear, so crisp. It's just lovely, and I use it especially in the main theme here when the reiteration of the theme comes in. Right, it's all about that tone. It's lovely. The Monster Low Brass kind of gives it the 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 again, kind of how I did it with the low strings. And then trombone ensemble articulations. Slightly off time there. Now, believe it or not, that was actually on purpose. And the reason why is because I wanted to maintain somewhat of a human element to it. I didn't want everything to be so perfectly in time that it felt robotic in a way. And so maybe, you know, listening to that by itself, it sounds terrible. But you know, when you hear it in context, you don't really notice any off timing. So it works. And the descant horn, again from Cinesamples. So that's just a counter melody there, and I use it in the more wistful sections, and then here in the C section. Right. Horn 1 and Horn 2, both from Berlin Brass. So just more harmonic color support. Right, that just makes sense. Okay, and then the muted trumpet is kind of like a secret ingredient. Kind of threw it in there. I really like the color. This is from the Berlin Brass Expansion B. Now the trumpet staccatissimo I threw in there just because I needed some extra punch on these notes here. So it's the very end of this section. If I didn't have it, it wouldn't be as punchy, those notes in the trumpets, as they are now. Some 2 horns, again a little more padding You know, just a little bit of layered stuff. Chords. And the brass stabs are amazing because you literally just press one key and it has pre-orchestrated chords for you, so. Right, I literally pressed a C and it gave you that, so. And then finally, the brass crescendo. Sounds like this. And that's from Metropolis Arc 3, the short, low brass crescendo. And then, we're almost there. We have the percussion, and the main meat and potatoes percussion is the timpani for me. Center per percussion sounds really epic, really bombastic. I just love the tone. And yeah, it sounds something like this. Oops. Right, so really you hear that resonance. Like it's there. The timpani crescendo I love because this is from Metropolis Arc 3, and it's three timpani players playing together doing a really compact short crescendo. So for lead-ins, it's wonderful. Right, you hear that there. Layering that timpani with tubular bells, oh, I love it. Military snare gives it that marching, epic, heroic feel. So. Here, for example. Now, suspended cymbal are where you get the swells, so right? Crash cymbals are when you actually crash the cymbals together, so it gives you that sound, and sounds like this together, right? When we get into the processing section, like the next video, we'll talk about the levels and stuff. It's really important, especially for the percussion section, that we get our levels right, because we don't want anything to stand out and for the listener to think like, oh, that I heard that cymbal, like I noticed that cymbal. You don't want them to notice many things. You just want them to enjoy the overall music. You don't want them to be like picking things out in their head, unless they're a musician. So if they're just a lay person just listening to music, then you know, you just want them to enjoy the experience and not have something startle them, right? Like a too loud of a cymbal or something. Then we've got our bass drum here, which gives us just a low, non-tonal support, especially just for like emphatic downbeats and stuff like that. Then we have the toms. I love these. This is from Metropolis Arc 3. Just a very nice full tone in the low end. So that's layered with the snare to give it some low end and some high end from the snare. The deep booms are from Metropolis Arc 2. So we're using all 3 arcs here. All 4 technically in the flutes, right? So that's what the deep boom sounds like. Really nice. I use that in context. This is what it sounds like. So it's like you're sinking into water. It's right. And little Glock here, just to throw in a little bit of extra color. Now I didn't have that the first time, so hopefully the listener will feel something a little different compared to the first time. So you notice no Glock there the first time, right? So the second time it's a little extra high end. And then finally the tubular bells are just that classic cinematic instrument. I love the tone of the bells in Center Perk. It's just really, really cool. So the Glock is from Berlin Percussion. The deep boom I said from Metropolis Arc 2. I think I already covered the rest. Crash cymbals and suspended cymbals from Center Perk as well. The snare is from Center Perk. So Center Perk and Metropolis Arc and the Berlin series. Alright, and finally the extra section, so the extra ear candy stuff. So choir, men and women. out of the box. This is out of the box. This sounds really cool. These are the sustains. When I think of the word epic, I do think of a lot of choir, so in louder sections like this. It's nice to have orchestral instruments, but it's also nice to have that human element of the choir, so. Right? Then we have the choir ooze for more softer sections. This is from Time Macro. And the choir men and choir women sustains are from Metropolis Arc 1. So it's warm, right? It washes you in sound. Then here we have a piano tinkling away. This is from the Berlin Inspire. Now how can we have a fantasy track without harp glisses? So these are all the pre-recorded glisses, and it's again very important where we actually put the glisses. So, you know, either going into a downbeat, or you know, while a melody note is holding something, you know, then they can go up and down and all that stuff. Right? So again, that was before a downbeat. I think most of these glisses are like that. And then here we have some actual harp plucks. So this is a playable patch in Cineharps. This is from Cineharps as well. So these are basically like broken chords. When you hear those ding, 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 that's just filling in the frequency spectrum there because I'm holding longer notes in the melody, so you hear the harp there as well. CineOrc is kind of my bread and butter support library, so adds extra color in the low end. Kind of gives a harmonic bass, you know? I mean, Cinesamples makes some awesome stuff. Really, really practical libraries for composers. And some choir strings clouds. This is from Time Macro again. Really love this patch. Has some harp in there, it has some strings, right? So this is one of those I just decided to throw in there last minute because I love the sound of it. And finally, we have the room tone, and that's from Cinesamples as well. They just kind of recorded the MGM stage, a little bit of it. So I basically dragged it on throughout. No, I actually cut it short, huh? But yeah, you kind of hear at a really low level. You can kind of hear the tone of the room. It's just like, yeah, you just hear the room, like people moving around a little bit. There's a little bit of sound in there, so it's almost like as if giving the illusion that this is performed by an orchestra in that room. So that's the intention there. And then we have the sub bass, which it just provides the very bottom of the frequency spectrum there, as you can hear it probably. So I'm just using Serum for this, just using the sub oscillator. So like a traditional orchestra is not going to have like a sub bass, right? Like when you're sitting in a live orchestra, it's not going to do that. But in cinematic music, you can do whatever you want, as long as that sounds realistic, within bounds. For this style, it just makes sense that you can add in a touch of this, a touch of that. So anyway, that is the video. I know it's a lot of tracks, and I think we actually kept it within a good length this time. If you have any questions, please let me know. But these are basically all the instruments and the arrangement that went into it. A lot of it is in the small details, so like glisses here, little spiccatos here and there. And in terms of the mixing and stuff, we'll talk about that next time, you know, about the balance and all that. So that's coming up. But thank you for watching, and again, let me know if you have any questions. Please feel free to subscribe if you haven't yet, just so you can stay tuned for the last video in the breakdown series and for the future videos coming up. I'm going to do way more composing videos, so again, thank you, and I will see you in the next video, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.